agent relativism says there are no objective truths, and cultural relativism says there are no objective truths, and you respond back, is that objectively true? Does that just apply to you, or does it apply to me? Oh, it's objective, so it's self-refuting. Often what you'll get is kind of pushback. Yeah, but this is just what people believe. That person believes they're right. This is what typically, let's say when we're talking about different cultures doing bad things, let's say, or an unjust war or something like that, and they'll say that, well, that's just how it is. That's just what, to them, they thought what they were doing is right. Now, that's just kind of a Captain Obvious statement, isn't it? I mean, do you know anybody that believes something and what they believe to be false? How weird would that be? I wouldn't even make any sense. I believe X, and furthermore, Your Honor, I believe that my belief in X is actually false. So there's always, that goes without saying. A person, when they act or subscribe to a certain moral position or a particular judgment, a state of fact or something like that, of course they believe that it's true. And here's going to be where I'm going to teach you to separate the categories. We're not asking the question of whether the person believes it to be true. This is the same conversation that Socrates had because back in Socrates' time, what we would call modern day relativists were the sophists. And it was basically similar arguments were brought up. And the idea is that the philosopher Socrates, and all philosophers, are concerned with knowledge. And as you get spelled out in the Theaetetus, that, well, in order to have knowledge, you obviously have to believe something. And it has to be true, but you have to have the right sort of justification for why you ascribe to that belief. So Socrates responds, and you could respond likewise, I'm not concerned with doxa, opinion or belief. I want episteme. That's the business that I'm in. If you want to listen to doxa, go become a therapist. But as a philosopher, we're concerned with objective truth and the justifications for that. So it goes without saying, of course people believe and have doxa. I don't care about that. Irrelevant. We want to know, is it true, and does a person have proper justification for holding that true belief or not? So here's one way to, when you get into the moral claims, okay, person X believes abortion is wrong. Person Y believes that it's permissible. Okay, who's right? Now you get the whole thing. Well, who are you to judge? Or X thinks it's... Well, obviously we're not getting anywhere with that. Of course X believes this and Y believes that. Our question is, what ought they to believe? So now we're getting into, and most people don't pick up on this. When they refer, well, that's just the way the world works. Or that's just what people believe. They're just describing the state of affairs, the way things are, or this is such. But our questions, when both epistemically, factual questions and moral questions, are not just merely descriptions. How ought it to be? I know person X believes this and person Y believes that. That's describing the state of affairs. Okay, I'm not in the business of description. I'm in the normative business. I'm concerned about the oughts. Ought they to believe?
Yeah.
Now, a person could just deny that any domain like that exists, but then that's, again, self-refuting. And what this shows, too, is, as we get in G more, too, is the two domains are really distinct, and there's something called the naturalistic fallacy. We can't derive oughts from ises, from where the world is. Why? Because there's two different domains. The world is messed up. It ought not to be that way. I don't know if you want to add anything, and we can come back to.
Yeah, I don't know if you may disagree with me on this, but I think if you really do deny the existence of like I said, essences and teleology, then there is absolutely no way to derive an ought from an is, because just because it is the case that I don't like murder doesn't mean that you ought not to murder. There's a real gap there. And trying to think of how to get it across other than just simply the brute fact of it, but I don't think I really can. I mean, just because something is a certain way doesn't mean it ought to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
You could kind of use this on certain things, like just because it is the case that giving a plant water makes the plant grow doesn't mean you ought to water the plant.
Plus, it's self-refuting. You can just return back and be like, why are you disagreeing with me? Why are you telling me ought I not to believe this? I mean, isn't this just what I believe? It becomes really strange about like, why are you even engaging in? It reminds me of a story of my friend. He found these black Hebrew Israelites preaching on the street corner, and he actually engaged. And so they were going to say that, the typical things, that Christ was actually genetically black and stuff like that. And so my friend stumped him and said, all right, I'll give you that. Then what? And they were like, I don't know, I didn't think about that far ahead. And then he says, so then it gets something basically that they're saying that only 144,000 genetically black people will be saved. That's what it means. So my friend, who was obviously white, had...
What about Cornelius? What about Cornelius the centurion? What happened to him?
Right, yeah. My friend responded back like, why are you even talking to me then? Like, what are you trying to convince me of? Like, aren't I, like...
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you? And so there's something similar. I thought that was a funny story, though. And the black Hebrew Israelite was like, I don't know, man, that's a good point. And they just parted ways. That, look, I mean, if you're holding to this principle that everything's relative and subjective, there are no oughts. And you're just giving descriptions. You're at the descriptive realm. Then why are you having a dispute about somebody for being wrong? Don't you believe that they shouldn't hold that view? And so now they're in the exact domain that they said they weren't going to commit to, which is
exactly
self-justification.